air. She continued to stare after him until he was out of sight, then with a start she came back to herself. "You were right, Madge, and I was wrong," she said reflectively, still as if she were studying her problem. "That man is no masher." I looked up startled. "What makes you think so?" I asked breathlessly. "I don't know," she returned, "but he either thinks he knows you, or you remind him of some dead daughter or sister or sweetheart, or oh, there might be any one of a dozen reasons why he would want to stare at you. I think he's harmless, though. He probably won't ever try to speak to you. Just take it out in following you around and looking at you." "Oh," I gasped. "Do you think he's going to keep this up?" "Looks like it," Lillian returned, "but simply ignore him. He has all the earmarks of a gentleman. I don't think he will annoy you. Now forget him and enjoy your ice, and then we'll go and get that hat." Under Lillian's guidance the selection of the hat proved an easy task. Lillian bade me good by at the door of the hat shop. "You don't need me any longer, do you?" she asked, "now that this hat question is settled?" "No, no, Lillian," I returned, "and I am awfully grateful to you for giving me so much of your time." "Till Wednesday, then," Lillian said. "Good by." I had quite a long list in my purse of small purchases to be made. At last even the smallest item on my list was attended to, and wearied as only shopping can tire a woman, I went over to the railroad station. In my hurry of departure in the morning I had forgotten my mileage ticket, so that I had to go to the ticket office to purchase a ticket to Marvin. I had forgotten all about the man who had annoyed me in the reception room of the Sydenham and the little English tea room, so when I turned from buying my ticket to find him standing near enough to me to have heard the name of Marvin, I was startled and terrified. He did not once glance toward me, however, but strolled away quickly, as if in finding out the name of my home town he had learned all he wished. I was thoroughly upset as I hurried to my train, and all through my hour's journey home to Marvin the thought of the man troubled me. What was the secret of his persistent espionage? The coincidences of the day had been too numerous for me to doubt that the man was following me around with the intention of learning my identity. When the train stopped at Marvin, I was aghast to see the mysterious stranger alight from it hurriedly and go into the waiting room of the station. I thought I saw his scheme. From the window of the station he could see me as I alighted, and either ascertain my identity from the station agent or from the driver of whatever taxi I took. I had only felt terror of the man before, but now I was thoroughly indignant. The thing had gone far enough, I told myself grimly. Instead of getting off the train I passed to the next car, resolving to stop at the next village, Crest Haven, and take a taxi home from there. The ruse succeeded. As the train sped on toward Crest Haven, I had a quiet little smile at the way I had foiled the curiosity of the mysterious stranger. I debated for some time whether or not I ought to tell Dicky of the incident. I had so much experience of his intensely jealous temperament that I feared he might magnify and distort the incident. Finally I temporized by resolving to say nothing to Dicky unless the man's tracking of me reached the point of attempting to speak to me. But the consciousness of keeping a secret from Dicky made me preoccupied during our dinner. Dicky reached home an hour after I did, and all through the dinner hour I noticed him casting curious glances at me from time to time. "What's the matter?" he asked, as after dinner he and I went out to the screened porch to drink our coffee. "Why, nothing," I responded guiltily. "Why do you ask?" "You act as if you thought you had the responsibility of the great war on your shoulders," Dick returned. "I haven't a care in the world," I assured him gayly. and arousing myself from my depression, I spent the next hour in gay, inconsequential chatter in an attempt to prove to Dicky that I meant what I said. In the kitchen I heard the voices of Jim and Katie. They were raised earnestly, as if discussing something about which they disagreed. Presently Katie appeared on the veranda. "Please, Mrs. Graham, can you yust come to kitchen, yust one little minute?" "Certainly, Katie," I replied, rising, while Dicky mumbled a half laughing, half serious protest. "I'll be back in a minute, Dicky," I promised lightly. It was full 5 before I returned, for Jim had something to tell me which confirmed my impression that the mysterious stranger spying upon me was something to be reckoned with. "I didn't think I ought to worry you with this, Mrs. Graham, but Katie thinks you ought to know it, and what she says goes, you know." He cast a fatuous smile at the girl, who giggled joyously. "Tonight, down at Crest Haven, I overheard one of the taxi drivers telling another about a guy that had come down there and described a woman whom he said must have gotten off at Crest Haven and taken a taxi back to Marvin. The description fitted you all right, and the driver gave him your name and address. He said he got a 5 spot for doing it." My face was white, my hands cold, as I listened to Jim, but I controlled myself and said quietly: "Thank you, Jim, very much for telling me, but I do not think it amounts to anything." Chapter 32.